Today we're in Social Studies, Unit 2, Lesson 3, the Roman Republic. Pay attention to the vocabulary words as we read. Follow along as I read, and please take notes with me. Our homework today is about Italy's geography and how it impacted the rise of Rome. So let's pay attention and find that information. Let's get started. Italy's geography. Legend says that Rome was founded in 753 BC by brothers called Romulus and Remus. Rome's 7 hills made Rome easy to defend, and the Tiber River served as a water route to the Mediterranean Sea. Italy's geography influenced the country's history. Mountains called the Alps form a wall to the north, separating Italy from the rest of Europe. Italy is also a peninsula. Early Italians traded with Greece, Egypt, and other neighboring cultures. As a result, early Italian culture was influenced more by cultures around the sea than cultures across the Alps. The Italian peninsula pokes out into the Mediterranean Sea like a boot. Looking at Italy on a map, you can easily see the heel and the toe of the boot. The island to the west of the toe is called Sicily. It was a popular destination for ancient Greek colonists because of its rich farmland. Along with the Alps, the Apennines affected life in Italy. These mountains run all the way down the boot from north to south, and their height made travel across the peninsula difficult. Italy also has volcanoes, such as Mount Etna in Sicily. Perhaps the most famous is Mount Vesuvius. Its eruption in AD 79 buried the crowded cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum. Italy also has a number of fertile plains. One of the most important is the Po River Valley. Another is Latium, located on the west coast of central Italy. The Tiber River runs through the center of this plain. More than 2,000 years ago, a city located on the Tiber River was the center of a vast empire. The name of this city was Rome. Rulers of Rome. The Etruscans were among the earliest people in Italy. Early in its history, Rome was ruled by Etruscan kings. In 510 BC, the Romans drove out these kings and founded the Roman Republic. In a republic, government leaders are voted into office. Patricians and plebeians. A powerful group called patricians from Rome's wealthiest families became the new rulers. Beneath them were the plebeians, poor farmers and shopkeepers who could not hold office. Both groups were made up of Roman citizens. A citizen is a person who is born in a country or becomes a member of a country by law. From its beginning, Rome was a military power. By 250 BC, Rome had conquered most of the Italian peninsula. The conquered people eventually became Roman citizens. Citizens of Rome paid taxes, and male citizens served in the army. Rome had 2 elected leaders called consuls. There were 2 so that neither man could take advantage and become a dictator an oppressive ruler. Both consuls had to agree on any public plan, and either consul could veto or turn down a plan of the other consul. To be certain that there would be no dictator, the Senate, the lawmaking body of Rome, had to approve the consul's plan. Plebeian demands. Do you think this patrician government was fair? Plebeians did not. They were citizens. They served in the army and paid taxes. Why did patricians have all the political power? In 494 BC, the plebeians came up with a clever plan. They went on strike. Plebeians refused to open their shops or to serve in the army. Plebeian farmers refused to bring their crops into Rome. The panicked patricians had to agree to share power. The plebeians were given a plebeian assembly to elect representatives called tribunes. The tribunes could veto laws and review judges' decisions. About 50 years later, plebeians had a new demand. They said they had no idea what the laws were because they were not posted. All Roman laws were then placed on display in Rome's public marketplace. The laws were referred to as the 12 Tables because they were carved on 12 large stone tablets. A slave revolt. There was a third group of people living in Rome. Hundreds of enslaved people were captured during wars. Anyone of any race could be enslaved. Roman slaves had some legal rights. They could even buy their freedom. Life, however, was usually harsh for slaves. It was especially so for a group of slaves called gladiators. Gladiators fought each other or wild animals to the death in large arenas. It was a dangerous life. In 73 BC, 70,000 slaves joined a gladiator named Spartacus in revolt. His army of slaves swept across the peninsula. In the end, Spartacus and his followers were defeated and put to death. This ended any serious resistance to slavery in the Roman world. So what that means is Spartacus was a gladiator, and they tried to revolt, which means they tried to turn on the leaders because they didn't like it. But eventually they lost and they died, and that stopped people from speaking up against it. A powerful enemy. Carthage was a Phoenician city-state in northern Africa. For over a century, Rome and Carthage struggled for power. Historians call these the Punic Wars, from Punicus, the Roman word for Phoenicia. The Punic Wars. In 218 BC, an army from Carthage crossed the Alps and invaded Italy. Their brilliant general, Hannibal, delivered a crushing defeat to Rome. Rome then invaded northern Africa, and Hannibal had to return to defeat Carthage. Both cities knew it was a battle to the death. The Romans finally defeated Carthage in 146 BC. They sold the survivors into slavery and burned every building in Carthage. Legend says they poured salt on the soil so nothing would grow there again. Rome now ruled the Mediterranean world. A battle for power. After the Punic Wars ended, several civil wars erupted between wealthy Romans and powerful generals. A civil war is a war between groups within a country. One of these generals was Julius Caesar. In 58 BC, his armies conquered Gaul, present-day France. He became wildly popular and later led his soldiers into Rome. Once there, he made himself dictator for life. Caesar made many changes. He revised the Roman calendar. He gave land and grain to the poor. He increased the number of people in the Senate and granted citizenship to foreigners. Caesar, however, had many enemies. So your homework for today is to write about how Italy's geography affected the rise of Rome. So remember, geography is like landforms, landmarks, mountains, rivers, ocean, volcanoes. That was mostly in the beginning of the chapter, but it does carry through all the way to the end. I would like a paragraph which is at least 6 sentences. 6 to 8 sentences. Let's get started on it.